Simu Liu was the first Asian actor to lead a Marvel movie, but now due to the way things have been handled, he's come out against Marvel and he's trashing Disney. In 2021, Disney released Shang-Chi with Simu Liu, which made $431 million on a budget of $200 million. It was actually a 4-decade process to make a live-action Shang-Chi, where Stan Lee signed on Brandon Lee, the son of Bruce Lee, in the 1980s to do a TV show, but they couldn't find the financing. And Shang-Chi was supposed to be an early part of Marvel, where the Ten Rings organization was mentioned in the first Iron Man, and Shang-Chi was actually in the original script for the movie. But ultimately, Marvel's president Kevin Feige opted not to have Shang-Chi in the movie because they thought it was a disservice to the character just having him be a side character. And 12 years later, they ended up finishing Shang-Chi in February of 2020, a month before COVID started, but because of COVID, they had to delay the release of the movie a year. Because that Disney wanted to do a dual release of Shang-Chi in theaters, but also on Disney Plus, like they did with Black Widow, which made an extra $60 million on the Disney Plus premiere. That ended up causing issues as well because Scarlett Johansson ended up suing Disney because she wasn't given any bonuses from the Disney Plus revenue like she was promised from theaters. Because that Disney CEO at the time, Bob Chapek, said he planned on releasing Shang-Chi 45 days before Disney Plus, saying it'll be an interesting experiment post-COVID. Because that Simu Liu, a week before Shang-Chi came out, publicly called out Bob Chapek, saying we are not an experiment, pissed off that he said that. Simu Liu got mixed support saying that, where he seemed to make it more about race, while Bob Chapek was very clearly just talking about being a post-COVID movie. Then Disney ran into another problem, and that's that Shang-Chi was banned in China, with many believing the reason the Chinese government did it was because Simu Liu's father is an immigrant from China who's publicly bashed the government. Why that's a big deal, the first Iron Man only made 2.6% of its box office return in China at $15 million. Then cut to 11 years later with Avengers Endgame, Disney made $632 million in China, which came to 22% of the movie's gross. For Shang-Chi, the movie as a whole wasn't a success because even though it made $432 million, theaters take 40%, which knocks it to $259 million, and with $100 million in marketing, the movie actually lost $40 million. But still, for 2021 post-COVID Marvel movies, that was not the worst loss, where Eternals lost $52 million and Black Widow lost $60 million. Because that Marvel's president Kevin Feige said there are plans for a Shang-Chi sequel, but there's no script written, no plans for production, it's not likely the movie ever happens. That delay also likely has to do with issues with Marvel, where after a decade of successes, in 2023 they had their worst year ever, where Ant-Man 3 and the Marvels lost a combined $340 million. Because that Kevin Feige and Disney's returning CEO Bob Iger said going forward they're only going to release 2 Marvel movies a year, and they're also going to keep them safe from movies like Deadpool 3. Now it looks like Simu Liu is in the negative with Marvel, where he liked a TikTok comment where someone came out trashing Disney and Marvel because they haven't released a sequel to Shang-Chi. While it is true the first Shang-Chi movie wasn't a success, it is important that Disney should remember that they are building franchises in the process, and they should use Captain America and Thor as a big example of that. Because the second Thor movie made $200 million more than the first Thor movie, and the second Captain America movie made $350 million more than the first. And there was also the reality that 2021, when Shang-Chi came out, was a bad year for movies, with a big example being Godzilla and Kong, where the one that came out in 2021 made $100 million less than the one that came out in 2024. But still, if Simu Liu wants a sequel to Shang-Chi to happen, he should not come out against Disney like he's been doing in the past, and he should use Natalie Portman as a big example. That's because Wonder Woman director Patty Jenkins was supposed to direct the second Thor movie, but she ended up quitting because she didn't like the script that was given and called out Disney for it. And that was actually the reason Natalie Portman wasn't asked to return for Thor 3 and didn't come back for any Marvel projects for almost a decade. Simu Liu might want to be a bit more quiet if he wants this to happen, even though I think it should. And with that, I'm Charles Peralta. Please subscribe to learn something.